Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel, Amused Jester. My name is Junior. Again, I apologize for the background noise. I feel like every one of my videos is going to have that background noise now because that's my 3D printer working away like a good little boy. As you may not know about me, I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I like to do stuff with my hands. I like to build stuff. I used to paint portraits. I used to do sculpture with clay. I like to solve stuff with my hands. So 3D printing is something that I have really come to enjoy because it's not a perfect art. It's not. That's one of the things I've learned. But before I do that, let me say I've been, or my printer has been very busy this last 4 days. I've printed out a lot of stuff, but most of the stuff that I printed are parts and stuff that I use to fill out my old projects. My old projects being these old Star Wars toys that I purchased. That's all damaged, incomplete and everything. And I purchased them cheaply because I was thinking of initially what I wanted to do was buy the parts for them and then eventually make molds and cast them myself. But of course, 3D printing has done a lot of stuff for me. So first off, I finished. I can't bring it in, but my AT-AT Legacy is almost nearly complete. Uh, in the exterior, I've printed out hatches. This is a rear hatch for the AT-AT. I'm sorry, this is the bottom hatch. This is the rear hatch for the AT-AT. The side cannons, the chin guns, and imagine that I have four AT-ATs that required a lot of material, a lot of panels, and this is another panel over here. Um, so AT-AT, I have at least four or five that I had to fill out parts, and some of them I think a total maybe 8 parts or so. So one of the things I learned with the AT-ATs is the thinner the object that you're printing. Remember that this is printing from the ground up, and this is in a bed. And the higher it gets, the thinner it becomes, or the higher it gets from the bed, and the thinness of the material will cause it to wobble as it's printing like this. That's what was causing some of the wobbles that you're seeing here. It's not as evident here now, but that I think was causing the kind of like waves of pattern that was occurring at the very top. The ones that I had was even taller than this. That's where it was occurring. The other thing too is one of the things I learned too is about the filament spools. I bought mine straight from Elegoo because I thought that since it's the same brand, the same company, that they would be more responsible when they're doing their spools. What I mean by spools are the filament that's in here and everything. This is all that's left of my 1 kilogram spool. I really used it all up as best as I could. Anyway, going back to the spools, my first spool had a lot of threads or filaments kept getting buried on top of each other. In fact, I would say 50% of it was kind of buried in, and I kind of thought that was natural or normal. And sometimes the Elegoo would have to yank, like there would be a very strong strain on the string. It would be very taut because it was buried and it was trying to pull it. 99% of the time in that first spool it was successful until the very last one. This was a 10-hour print job. This is not the only one. There was like, in that one print job, there was at least 8 objects. There was 2 of these, and then there was 2 of these. And what had occurred was, as you can see, there's a line here. Right here at that edge, 80% halfway through, I started to see spider webs occur. Luckily, I was just watching it. I saw like a spider web occur at the very top of it. It's like, wait, there's something wrong. I can just see it. So I watched it, and soon enough, like after the next layer of the spider web, it was printing air. There was nothing going in. And I looked at my spool. It was very, very tight. So I paused it immediately, and I yanked the filament so that it got untangled. And I tried to resume the print, and it was failing because there was at least 2 layers of nothing where it was trying to print, and there was nothing in there. So basically, there was nothing for the new layers of filament to grab onto. And I tried to fix it up, and there's no way you can fix it or zoom it. There is a way by a YouTuber called Emily the Engineer that showed it to me. I tried it, but I failed. I was able to edit the G code to how she said it, but when he tried to resume the print, I failed on that one. I'll have to investigate that because it seems like a very useful thing to know. Anyway, the only way that I could figure out how to do it was go back to the original build and somehow estimate where mine failed and resume, and then cut off the object. So I cut off this part and resumed my print from this point out. Now, how was I able to do that? You just gotta be observant, and I was very, very lucky because I noticed that on my print job, the first thing I did was I noticed that this part, there's 2 lines, and then it stopped right where the 3rd line started. And then in conjunction with that, I looked at these bolts, and I noticed that it ended here. So I was able to find the rest of this bolt and make the cut there. And as you can see, it's almost seamless, right? Like, it's almost perfect the way it ended up being. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 layer lines where I didn't quite get it. And then I just basically glued it. And I mean, it's not perfect, but I mean, it's a print job anyway. So that's the first thing I learned. That's the most major thing that I learned. The second thing I learned was exchanging or putting in a new filament while it's hot. Now, the regular way of putting filament is there's a sensor for Elegoo. Hold on a second. So the way the filament works is, as the filament is being fed through, you see this is the filament feeder. And you see this blue light over here? That's the sensor. The sensor basically will recognize once this is out, and this will turn dark. And that's the cue for the machine to say, oh, it's running out of filament. There's a settings in here here in the settings where you can turn off the sensor so that anyway, if the sensor finds out that there's no filament, it will keep on printing all the way up to maybe around here, in which case the machine will say, oh, you're running out of filament. Extrude the remaining filament and put in the new one. That's the regular way of doing things. Now, what I did was make an experiment, and I went to the forums to ask, is it possible to turn off the sensor and that start feeding the new one? And it is. But what I found out was this, as you can see, is turning really, really slow. And this from here to here takes about 20-30 minutes. So I had to stay here 20-30 minutes and just kept on feeding it. You'll feel it stop, but it takes a long time. And what I found out was, as diligent as I was pushing that filament through, following it through, if you miss it by by maybe a quarter of a second, half of a second, there will be a layer of missing print that will just weaken it. There's just no way of following it through. So in terms of filament changes, it was a nice experience. It was a good experience. It's possible to do it, but this is only my first filament change, and I want to experience a regular one and see what happens. I'll have to watch out for it and try to make a small print job where I can do the regular swap, so I'll feel comfortable. I've been keeping track of my print jobs. 1 kilogram. That's the other thing I learned. So sorry. This is my print jobs from this 1 kilogram, and what I found out is it's not 1 kilogram exactly. It's actually maybe around 110 or 1.1, 1.1 kilograms or so. This is my next job, my next second and third spool. I already have it written down. Anyway, so what else have I learned? So this is one of the vehicles. Look, this. So I finished all the AT-ATs, and this is the second one that I finished is this is the V-wing. So all these V-wings didn't have any of these panels. None of these panels. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that I printed out, and look at how clean this basically printed out like this, like vertical. Look at how clean this is. I haven't even cleaned this completely yet. I just plugged it in there. But now, as you can see, the V-wing is complete. I hope it doesn't fly off. So just push this one right here. Oops, it does fly off. It's not supposed to fly off. Once I've cleaned it up, I'm gonna go ahead and secure that more. Well, that's the other thing I learned was I had to fitting. One of the things I learned was shrinking. Actually, when you're doing molding and casting in the old ways, you have to deal with shrink, and shrink is basically when you're molding something, you have to anticipate that the material that you're going to cast in will have some sort of shrinkage. With resin, there's not a lot of shrinkage going on. It's very almost like one-to-one. Most resin is, but with clay, you do expect, I think, maybe a 10% shrinkage. I can't remember now. But however careful you are with using calipers and measuring your object, once it prints, as the filament cools down, it causes shrinkage, so it's not going to be exact. So I had to sand off certain parts to fill it, to make sure it fits. And for example, and also I did not design these files. I bought these files from the maker with the strict no intention of selling it. This is just for personal use. So sometimes a designer makes a mistake or forgets something. So this initially printed out straight down, and it's supposed to have these notches. So I just basically cut it with my snippers. But look at how clean this print is. Now this is thicker than these ones. These were, so this was the one that got failed, and here's another one of the panels from the AT-AT that failed, so I glued that on. And here's another one that failed, and I glued that on. Anyway, so going back to this one, look at how clean this thing is. It's thicker and everything. Like, that's freaking awesome for a filament FDM printer. That's just amazing. You can still see some wobbling going on here, but so minimal. It's okay. Now, again, it could be the mistake of whoever designed it, or it's just shrinkage or something like that. but it's not going to be a perfect fit. It's like a 90% perfect fit. What I meant by that is this is actually a separate piece, this gun. This thing was does not fit this hole over here. This hole was a lot smaller by about that much. So I had to cut this part off and sand it off, and then and make it fit. It's still not perfect, as you can see. I still need to sand this off a little bit, but expect shrinkage when you're designing your object. And when you're, and that's the thing too. I'm getting into designing. I finally got my Fusion 360 up on my computer. I'm gonna start something small and just figure things out. Anyway, expect that whatever object that you're gonna get, there's gonna be some shrinkage, even if it's by the same designer. Like for example, designing it and fitting it to this one is gonna be hard enough. But even from the same designer, even though in the files it fits perfectly, it just may not. So even if you're designing your own object, you're gonna have to deal with that. What else? I think that's pretty much everything that I've learned so far in this last 4 days. I think I'm so happy with the Elegoo right now. It's been worry free for me. I've been very, very careful. I still haven't cleaned the bed. That's still the original bed that's still being used right now. I haven't seen any problems, so I didn't want to clean it and introduce foreign objects to the bed. Everything that I bought from Elegoo has arrived. I have 2 extra extruders. I have 2 extra plates. I've bought new 10 kilograms of spools. Oh, anyway, I was talking about the spool. So I was really, really mad about how. So I thought that was normal. So there was a lot of buried cables, buried filaments that kept on getting yanked, and the last one caused a print to fail. Anyway, the second spool, the one that I'm on right now, is perfect. There's nothing buried. So that's the normal way of what a spool should look like. And that makes me hesitate and afraid because from the forums it seems like it's becoming more and more regular for filaments from Elegoo to have that kind of workmanship in terms of building their spools, that it gets buried. And so I'm gonna have to watch out for that, because that's not normal. It should be clean, being fed through. There shouldn't be any buried cables, just to let you guys know. Anyway, yeah, so I bought 10 more kilograms. It was on sale. So instead of having $120, I paid 100 and actually instead of being $140, it ended up being $100. So I got 2 extra spools. But I think next time I might go to a different brand and everything. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me. I know it's not a very exciting thing, but for me it is, and for any one of you who might decide to get into 3D printing, I highly recommend Elegoo Centauri Carbon. From my experience, from what I've gotten, it's been just perfect. It's been worry free, but it's only been 3 or 4 days. I've probably printed at least 10 hours a day. So that's over 40 or 50 hours of printing. There's a print file history that can tell me, but Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's just me talking. I hope you guys learned something about it. I learned more about splicing now too. I learned how to, if you have an object like this, I learned how to cut it and put pegs in it so that you can attach it afterwards. If you guys if you guys see more interest in all that stuff, then I'll put it on. But the Orca slicer, it's a very, very easy thing to do. A lot of YouTube videos that are doing such a great job teaching you how to do things very, very simply. So yeah, I was thinking of my next project being a Star Wars vehicle, and the original object was bigger, like 3 times bigger than my plate. So I had to learn how to cut it, put it in different plates, and then put the peg holes in so that once it's printed, you can assemble it back in and everything. So yeah, very very exciting. And my next print job, it won't be just parts. It will be a whole figure. It will be a whole robot. I'll show that to you guys. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys in my next review, and it will be a review. I want to clean off the rest of my job, the rest of my table. So have a nice day. Bye.